Today I'd like to share with you the story of how the Harry Potter series, written by J.K. Rowling, has not only changed my life, but has changed the lives of millions of children across the globe in the hemispheres of competence, literacy, and interest in books in general. Throughout this presentation, I encourage you to also consider how this series reintroduced the fantasy genre to a world that had not seen one of such caliber in many years. To begin, take your mind on a journey back to the late 1900s, summer of 1997 to be more exact. Bill Clinton is only 6 months into his second term. The Summer Olympic Games had taken place less than a year ago. Michael Jackson had just started his infamous History World Tour, and later that year, the tragic death of Princess Diana elicited the grieving of fans and admirers worldwide, all so long ago. On June 30th of that year, J.K. Rowling released her first book from the series, titled Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. During this time period, children's novels were among the most unpopular forms of reading material. As a result, Rowling was denied by 12 different publishers before being offered a paltry advance by Bloomsbury Publishing. She adopted the pseudonym J.K. Rowling instead of using her full name so that boys would be more likely to read her books. The first book received mostly positive reviews from its critics. Many complimented on Rowling's imagination, humor, direct style, and clever plot construction. It was not until the release of the third book, however, that children really began taking notice. This was more than likely due to the 2001 release of the film version of the first book, which captivated audiences and ended up becoming the 21st highest-grossing movie of all time. Bloomsbury Publishing created the original covers of J.K. Rowling's books with appeal to children in mind. This, along with Rowling's use of a pseudonym, actually increased or proliferated an increase in reading among its audience, young boys most particularly. The data collected by professionals was both surprising and shocking. It was difficult to imagine that one book series could have so much everlasting influence. According to a Bookworm the Hippie article, in 2005, the UK-based Federation of Children's Book Groups took a look at what kids were thinking related to the Harry Potter series. What they found was a trip. 59% of kids interviewed believed that they had better reading skills thanks to the Harry Potter series, and 48% of kids were reading more thanks to the addictiveness of the complex and enchanting storylines. In a similar study in 2005, it was reported that in Australia, 3 out of 4 kids ages 11 to 13 had read at least one of the Harry Potter books. 57% of boys in the U.S. were reading the series compared to 51% of girls. At this time, the books were available in over 40 different languages worldwide. This increase in reading was shocking, but as time in the series progressed, the rise was no longer limited to children. By the time the fourth book was released, special parties were being thrown and held in bookstores and libraries everywhere, and with the release of the fifth book, adults began taking notice, primarily to see what all the fuss was about. They accompanied their children to these special release parties and celebrations, pictured here, and stood in long lines with them at the theater to purchase Harry Potter tickets. These adults also began reading the novels to their children as bedtime stories. Afterwards, the parents would then sneak the books away from their children's shelves after they fell asleep and read them themselves. As the book series received more adult attention, especially with the development of darker themes that became more apparent in the last few novels, Bloomsbury Publishing decided to release covers that would appeal to adults as well. Through a compelling, fascinating storyline and through the presentation of themes and genres such as fantasy, pulp fiction, horror, mystery, sports, and even romance, Harry Potter was able to bring together audiences across generations. Each of the books to date have sold millions of copies, with the final book, The Deathly Hallows, having sold 15 million in its first day of release, making it the fastest-selling book in history. The series' immense success makes one consider how previous books of its kind, if at all, impacted society and its reading levels, or served as influences to J.K. Rowling's books. Harry Potter is most commonly compared to old fantasy series such as J.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings and C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia. Before Harry Potter, these series were held as the epitome of raw fantasy and ultimate complex storytelling. J.K. Rowling has stated that she grew up reading both of the series as a child. She cites Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia as a major influence, however. She commonly reflects on how she developed the idea of Harry hurling himself through a pillar at King Cross Station to platform 9 3/4 from the wardrobe route to Narnia. Lewis's work is considered a children's classic, having sold over 100 million copies and has been translated into 47 different languages. In contrast, Rowling does not cite Tolkien's work as an influence on hers. However, fans of both have drawn many similarities between the two. Consider Tolkien's Nazgul and Rowling's Dementors, Gandalf and Dumbledore, Dark Lord Sauron and Dark Lord Voldemort. Rowling has said that these similarities are mere coincidences. The Lord of the Rings fan base seems to think differently, however. While the two do have things in common, Tolkien is heralded for producing a far more detailed and in-depth story. His books may not have had much influence among children, but they are nonetheless extremely important. Tolkienian scholar Tom Shippey has maintained that no modern writer of epic fantasy has managed to escape the mark of Tolkien, no matter how hard many of them have tried. In addition to being influenced by popular fantasy series, Harry Potter has also served as a main influence for the rise in popularity of young adult fiction. It accomplished this feat through its ability to bring together young and adult audiences. Other authors, such as Suzanne Collins and Stephanie Meyer, have found themselves accomplishing feats that would not have been possible without Rowling's novels. The chart here plainly displays the rise in popularity of young adult fiction by providing monetary figures. As one can see, total children's and young adult book sales have increased exponentially from 2011, the year of the final release of the Harry Potter movie, to 2012. The numbers are rising as new series such as Divergent, Percy Jackson, and The Maze Runner are becoming more mainstream by the day. Harry Potter can also be considered as a reason why the movies based on these young adult novels are so popular. The final Harry Potter novel, The Deathly Hallows, was split into two parts for movie production. This was done primarily because of the extensiveness and information load of the novel. However, after witnessing the monetary and commercial success that this method spawned, subsequent series, such as Twilight and The Hunger Games, have followed the trend. While Harry Potter has had major influences on reading among children, it has also served as influences to their views. Researchers from several European universities found that reading Harry Potter may make young people more tolerant. In the study, The Greatest Magic of Harry Potter, Reducing Prejudice, psychologists at the University of Modena say that reading Harry Potter improves attitude towards stigmatized groups such as immigrants, gays, and refugees. J.K. Rowling's world of magic left marks on society that had never before been felt by any of its kind. Because of her imaginative, creative, and innovative writing skills, this series has sold over 450 million copies, falling behind only the Bible, has been translated into over 60 languages, and has spawned 8 films, all of which have landed on the list for the top 20 highest-grossing films of all time. This series has even spawned its own theme park. Researchers around the world have come to the conclusion that reading levels among children are on the rise, and many contribute this to Rowling's Harry Potter series. Children have been observed reading the books in the poorest regions of Africa, in the snowy mountains of Nepal and Bhutan, and in the arid, war-torn regions of the Sahara and the Middle East. Harry Potter took the world by storm, and it has produced and maintained everlasting influences and effects on its people.